No, at 6, thousands of drinking water samples near more than 60 military bases showed unsafe levels of forever chemicals, including Naval Air Station Oceana.
So the nonprofit Environmental Working Group analyzed Department of Defense data and found that military bases across the country are contaminating private drinking water wells with PFAS. As Sarah Hammond learned, the group found 13 private wells near Oceana with levels that the EPA now deems unsafe, but not high enough to trigger Department of Defense support.
Do you know what's in your water? If you live near a military base in Hampton Roads, it could be PFAS, a substance better known as forever chemicals.
This stuff is nasty.
They're chemicals used in hundreds of everyday products. For people like retired Air Force firefighter Kevin Ferrara, the substances hid in firefighting foams on military bases.
So we were literally slathered in it, as we did our fire training.
Because those chemicals are extremely difficult to break down, the level in your blood can build up. Ferrara says because of that, he's now dealing with type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, and nerve damage. Some of his colleagues are diagnosed with cancer.
PFAS exposure we didn't expect that. And honestly, I think we're only scratching the surface of what impact it has on the human body.
Now, the independent nonprofit Environmental Working Group says contamination from military bases has seeped into the drinking water of nearby neighborhoods.
That contamination finds the path of least resistance, ends up in our local communities.
Jared Hayes with EWG says looking through Department of Defense data, they found 63 military bases showed, quote, unsafe levels of forever chemicals in thousands of drinking water samples.
Once they get into the water, they can spread out from the bases into surrounding areas. They can get into these drinking water wells.
Previously, the Environmental Protection Agency has said anything above 70 parts per trillion is a dangerous level. They've since lowered that to just 4 ppt.
There are many that are above that level where people are drinking water that the EPA considers to be unsafe.
And the Department of Defense is still operating under the previous guidelines of 70 ppt. Any number above that will trigger the agency to provide bottled water.
The DoD is waiting until the regulatory limit is set and made into law. But in the meantime, people are still drinking water that is considered to be unsafe.
So what are our military bases in Hampton Roads doing in the meantime? In early February, leaders from Norfolk Naval Shipyard encouraged people living nearby to let them test the well water.
And we've sampled on base here, we just have not sampled off base. So in this local area, this is the first time we've gone to the public to ask to sample the private drinking water wells around the base.
In a statement from the DoD, a spokesperson says the department is committed to addressing PFAS releases, saying in part, quote, the department is expanding ongoing investigations to determine where PFAS is migrated off base above the proposed levels and working to determine when public or private wells may have been impacted.
It's the Navy's top priority right now to ensure that we are mitigating any exposures in our surrounding communities.
But Hayes says the cleanup of the chemicals needs to happen now.
That means it's going to cost more than $8 billion to clean this contamination up. Frankly, the longer that we take to clean it up, the more expensive it's going to be and the harder it's going to be.
Sarah Hammond for 13 News Now.
And it's not just the DoD and environmental agencies taking a closer look at some of these forever chemicals. The Centers for Disease Control is now recommending doctors have a discussion with patients to see what their exposure might be and if blood testing would be beneficial.